We often think of eating with our hands as messy or even impolite. In many cultures, using cutlery is seen as a sign of sophistication and good manners. However, this wasn't always the case. Historically, many societies around the world have embraced the practice of eating with their hands, and for good reason. But what if I told you that ditching the cutlery could actually be good for you? Imagine the tactile sensation of feeling your food, the textures, and the warmth. This connection can make the eating experience more enjoyable and satisfying. It may seem surprising, but eating with your hands can improve your digestion, boost your enjoyment of food, and even be better for your health. When you eat with your hands, you tend to eat more mindfully, paying closer attention to the food you're consuming. This mindfulness can lead to better digestion and a more fulfilling meal experience. This isn't just an old wives' tale. Many traditional cultures have long understood the benefits of eating with hands. For instance, in India, it's believed that eating with your hands engages all your senses and helps you connect with your food on a deeper level. There's a growing body of scientific evidence to support the idea that eating with our hands is a natural and beneficial way to enjoy our meals. Studies have shown that the tactile feedback from our fingers can help regulate portion sizes and prevent overeating. Additionally, the act of using our hands can stimulate the release of digestive enzymes, aiding in better digestion. So, put down your fork and get ready to discover the surprising benefits of eating with your hands. Embrace this age-old practice and see how it can transform your dining experience. Whether you're enjoying a casual meal with friends or a traditional family feast, eating with your hands can bring a sense of joy and connection that cutlery simply can't match. Eating with your hands isn't just a cultural practice, there's science behind it that explains why it can be so beneficial. Your fingertips have thousands of sensory receptors that send signals to your brain, creating a deeper connection with your food. This tactile feedback enhances the sensory eating experience, leading to the release of dopamine, the feel-good hormone. As you touch your food, these sensory receptors are activated, making the act of eating more enjoyable and satisfying. Studies in the Journal of Sensory Studies show that people who eat with their hands report higher levels of food enjoyment compared to those who use cutlery. This is because the tactile sensations help you to engage more fully with your meal, promoting mindfulness and a richer dining experience. Imagine a side-by-side comparison. One person eating mindfully with their hands, fully engaged with the textures and temperatures of their food, versus another person distractedly eating with a fork while scrolling through their phone. The difference in their level of enjoyment and connection to the meal is significant. By eating with your hands, you're not just feeding your body, you're also nourishing your mind and spirit. The increased dopamine release from this more engaged way of eating can elevate your mood and make each meal a more pleasurable experience. So the next time you sit down to eat, consider putting down your cutlery and letting your hands do the work. You might just find that your food tastes better and your meal becomes a more enriching experience. Eating with your hands isn't just a cultural practice, there's science behind it that explains why it can be so beneficial. Your fingertips have thousands of sensory receptors that send signals to your brain, creating a deeper connection with your food. This tactile feedback enhances the sensory eating experience, leading to the release of dopamine, the feel-good hormone. As you touch your food, these sensory receptors are activated, making the act of eating more enjoyable and satisfying. Studies in the Journal of Sensory Studies show that people who eat with their hands report higher levels of food enjoyment compared to those who use cutlery. This is because the tactile sensations help you to engage more fully with your meal, promoting mindfulness and a richer dining experience. Imagine the difference between one person eating mindfully with their hands, fully engaged with the textures and temperatures of their food, and another distractedly eating with a fork while watching TV. The difference in their level of enjoyment and connection to the meal is significant. By eating with your hands, you're not just feeding your body, you're also nourishing your mind and spirit. The increased dopamine release from this more engaged way of eating can elevate your mood and make each meal a more pleasurable experience. So the next time you sit down to eat, consider putting down your cutlery and letting your hands do the work. You might just find that your food tastes better and your meal becomes a more enriching experience. Eating with your hands is more common than you might think. It's a practice that transcends borders and cultures, bringing people closer to their food and to each other. The tactile experience of feeling the texture and temperature of your food can enhance the overall dining experience, making it more intimate and enjoyable. In many cultures around the world, It's the traditional and preferred way to eat. From the bustling streets of India to the serene countryside of Ethiopia, eating with hands is a cherished tradition. It's not just about the food, it's about the connection, the shared experience, and the cultural heritage that comes with it. Think about Indian curries scooped up with naan bread, where the bread acts as both a utensil and a complement to the dish. The act of tearing the naan and dipping it into the curry is a ritual that adds to the enjoyment of the meal. Ethiopian injera used to grab stews, where the spongy bread soaks up the rich flavors of the stew, creating a perfect bite every time. This method of eating is not only practical, but also deeply rooted in the culture and traditions of the region. Or Japanese sushi enjoyed with fingertips. The delicate handling of sushi with fingers is considered an art form, preserving the integrity of the sushi and enhancing the dining experience. Yet in Western societies, we often see it as improper or childish. The use of cutlery is ingrained in our dining etiquette, and eating with hands is often frowned upon in formal settings. We're taught from a young age to use knives and forks, associating cutlery with good manners and sophistication. The clinking of silverware is synonymous with elegance and refinement, and the idea of eating with hands is relegated to casual or less formal occasions. But this wasn't always the case. Historically, even in Europe, eating with hands was commonplace. Medieval feasts were grand affairs where hands were the primary tools for eating, and the communal nature of these meals fostered a sense of camaraderie and shared experience. Historically, even in Europe, eating with hands was commonplace. The transition to cutlery was gradual and influenced by various social and cultural changes over the centuries. It's only relatively recently that cutlery has become the norm. The evolution of dining practices reflects broader societal shifts, but the essence of eating with hands remains a timeless and universal way to connect with our food and each other. One of the biggest concerns about eating with hands is hygiene. We worry about germs and bacteria transferring from our hands to our food. However, with proper hand washing, eating with your hands can be just as hygienic as using utensils. In fact, our hands are often cleaner than we think. Studies have shown that washing our hands with soap and water effectively removes most bacteria. In contrast, forks and spoons, especially in restaurants, may not be cleaned properly between uses. This can actually make utensils a breeding ground for germs. Eating is not just about taste, it's a full sensory experience. When we eat with our hands, we engage our sense of touch, which can actually enhance our enjoyment of the food. Our fingertips are incredibly sensitive, containing thousands of nerve endings. These receptors send information to our brains about the food's texture, temperature, and even shape. This heightened sensory input makes the eating experience more pleasurable. We become more aware of the different flavors and textures, appreciating the food on a deeper level. This mindful way of eating can also help us feel more satisfied and prevent overeating. More than a meal, the cultural significance of eating with hands. In many cultures, eating with hands is about more than just convenience. It represents tradition, community, and a deeper connection to the food we eat. For example, in India, eating with hands is seen as a way to connect with one's food and show respect for the ingredients and the person who prepared it. In parts of Africa, sharing food from a communal plate using hands signifies unity and togetherness. These cultural traditions highlight the social and emotional significance of hand eating, fostering a sense of belonging and shared experience. Weighing the benefits, pros and cons of ditching the cutlery. Eating with your hands is a practice that dates back to ancient times and is still prevalent in many cultures around the world. It's a way of connecting with our food on a more intimate level, but like any practice, it comes with its own set of advantages and disadvantages. While eating with your hands offers numerous benefits, it's important to acknowledge both sides of the coin. Pros first, let's delve into the benefits. Improved digestion. The act of touching and feeling our food sends signals to our brains, preparing our digestive system for the meal ahead. This sensory interaction can stimulate the release of digestive enzymes, making the process of breaking down food more efficient. Additionally, the warmth of our hands can slightly increase the temperature of the food, aiding in better digestion. Enhanced taste. Engaging our sense of touch through hand eating heightens our perception of flavors and textures. When we use our hands, we are more likely to notice the subtle differences in texture and temperature, which can make the eating experience more enjoyable. This heightened sensory experience can lead to a greater appreciation of the food we consume. Mindful eating. The tactile experience of eating with our hands encourages us to slow down, savor each bite, and be more present during meals. This mindfulness can lead to better portion control and a more satisfying eating experience. By being more in tune with our food, we are less likely to overeat and more likely to enjoy the meal. Messiness. It's undeniable. Eating with your hands can be messy. This can be a major drawback, especially in situations where cleanliness is a priority. The messiness can extend beyond just our hands to the dining area, requiring more effort to clean up after the meal. Social etiquette. In some cultures or settings, eating with your hands might be frowned upon. Formal dining situations often require the use of cutlery, and not adhering to these norms can be seen as disrespectful or uncouth. It's important to be aware of the social context and cultural expectations when deciding whether to eat with your hands. Food limitations. Certain foods, like soups or slippery noodles, are simply impractical to eat without utensils. While many dishes can be enjoyed with hands, some require the precision and convenience that cutlery provides. This limitation can make it difficult to fully embrace hand eating in all dining situations. Ultimately, the choice to ditch the cutlery comes down to personal preference, cultural practices, and the specific dining context. A personal journey. My adventure in hand eating. Intrigued by the benefits, I decided to embark on my own hand eating experiment. I started with familiar foods like bread and fruit, gradually venturing into more adventurous territories like Indian curries. To my surprise, I found myself enjoying the experience immensely. The act of scooping up the food, feeling its warmth and texture, brought a new level of enjoyment to my meals. I felt more connected to my food and more satisfied even when eating smaller portions. Reconnect with your food, a call to mindful eating. In our fast-paced world, we often rush through meals, barely paying attention to the food we consume. Eating with our hands encourages us to slow down, engage our senses, and truly savor the experience. It's a reminder that food is not just fuel, it's something to be enjoyed and appreciated. Think about the last time you truly tasted your food. When you eat with your hands, you are more likely to pay attention to the smell, the texture, and the flavor of each bite. It becomes a more mindful and enjoyable experience. A world of flavor awaits. Embrace the joy of eating with your hands. Eating with your hands can be a fun, sensory, and culturally enriching experience. It's a chance to reconnect with our food, engage our senses, and appreciate the simple pleasure of eating. So next time you have the opportunity, ditch the cutlery and dig in with your hands. You might be surprised at how good it feels. Remember, eating with your hands is not about being messy or improper. It's about experiencing food in a more natural and enjoyable way. Would you try eating with your hands, yes or no? Like, subscribe, and follow.